What's going on, everybody?
Happy weekend, happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Every day's kind of like a Saturday for us.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it's all the same.
My favorite thing about Saturdays is I love to start the day with a hike and then going to the farmer's market, which I already did, and it was fantastic.
Nice.
Got all sorts of goodies. And yeah, so today, everybody, we are going to be talking about stress in types 4, 5, and 8. So 4 is the romantic or the individualist. Type 5 is the investigator or the observer, and type 8 is the challenger or the protector. You know what I'm thinking too is I wonder if Sam wanted to jump into this one, and she may not be a member yet. So let me just pull that up really quickly and make sure that I approve her into the group.
All right. Well, so in the meanwhile, while you're doing that, this is the third installment now of us talking about stress and how that affects each Enneagram type differently.
Right.
So I know we already covered the other types, including my type 7, for instance. And if you guys haven't seen that before, the videos are, you can just watch them again below. If you have questions, drop them in the comment box and we'll keep responding to it. And I think you're getting some more people here to join us.
Yep, there we go, Leanne.
Excellent. And we are getting more people to listen in as well as we're approving new members to our group here. All right, I think this is it.
I think we're good to go. Yeah, I mean, stress is such a big topic that we're definitely going to come back to it on multiple occasions. So don't worry. And we'll get more nuanced with stress as well, like different kinds of stress, stress at work, stress in relationships, stress with our body. So we can get into it more finite detail. But today is just very basic, touching on each type, stress in general. And we're going to start off, let's start off with type 8, since that's my type. Party.
Oh, you are type 8, huh? No, I knew that.
You knew that. Yeah, so type 8, the protector or the challenger. And this is one of the body types. So the core emotion they experience will be anger. They experience anger fully. Like, yep, definitely can get angry. It pops up pretty easily, and it also goes down quickly.
That's something I noticed too.
You've noticed that?
I've seen you be angry easily.
Yes. A little bit. Yeah, it's true. So stress for type 8s. What is it that really stresses out a type 8? Interesting question, right? Because they come across as like a big energy type and taking care of business. But one of the things that can really stress an 8 out is anything that keeps them stuck or slows them down. Since 8s have a lot of energy, they like to get things moving and they like to just go, go, go. They don't like it when something blocks the way. So there's a lot of stress can be generated when they feel limited or slowed down, stuck. Similarly, 8s are really triggered by being controlled. They want to be the ones that are in control. So when they're in a situation where their control is taken away or they're being micromanaged, that can be very stressful to a type 8. And when type 8s are stressed out, they tend to go into the number 5, which means they'll kind of pull away from the world, go into their turtle shell and say, you know what, just give me space. I need to think about it. Leave me alone. So that's classic behavior for type 8s when they're under stress.
Yeah, I can see that. I see you when things get stressful for you, that you take your me time.
Yeah.
And, just take maybe a book or zone out for a little bit. And I think that regulates the system again.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do when I'm stressed is I want to get outside and hit a trail with nobody on it. I just want to be alone by myself. And that really feels good to me, just kind of get away from it all.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's type 8. All right. So which one should we do next, 5 or 4?
Let's do 5, since you were already saying like 5, an 8 can sort of look like a 5 when they're stressed. So how does a 5, do they look like when they're stressed?
Yeah. So type 5, this one is in the head center or the thinking center. So the primary emotion there would be anxiety or fear. And they tend to deal with it by feeling it initially, but then trying to get rid of it or suppress it by looking for solutions, reading about something, finding the answers, and protecting themselves in that way. So the thing that can really stress out 5s is when their personal space is encroached upon. They have a sense of like, this is my boundary, this is my space, whether it's time or actual distance in space or energy levels. they want to make sure they can maintain what feels good to them. So if anything is asking too much of them, too much of their energy, or crossing those boundaries and getting too close, that can be really stressful to a 5. A 5 needs to have the ability to really go at their own pace and have the space and energy they need to themselves. And so they'll be protective over that. And when a 5 is getting really stressed out, like they're not getting enough time to themselves, there's too much on their plate, they're going too fast, too hard, they will start to look more like an unhealthy type 7, which means they're going to become very scattered. Sort of like, oh my God, I gotta do all the things. There's this, there's that, there's this, there's that. I can't decide what to do. Oh, there's so many things. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And they just get more and more scattered.
Yeah, I can see that. And one thing you always talk about, I think, when you have 5s in the room is that they're called the investigator, and they love like to dig in. So if you're somebody who's maybe in school or preparing for an assignment or a test, and you love researching, and there's always so much more to research, and then you probably get stressed out about all of that, and maybe never even finish what you're so good at researching about.
Well, I remember a client that came to me while she was under tremendous stress because she was trying to finish her PhD. She was a type 5. She's like, oh my God, I've got to finish this PhD, but I'm so stressed out because the more research I do, the more research I realize I still need to do. It's almost like a never-ending, exponentially growing list of things I could like explore and research more. And there's no way to possibly finish this thing. So what she needed help with was cutting those things out and being like, good enough is good enough. You can never know it all. You can't research everything. You can't know everything because things are always changing. We're always finding out more information. And so helping her become more focused and narrow it down and know when to stop was really important.
Those rabbit holes, basically. They're just
the
deep
rabbit
for them.
holes. Yeah. And also for type 5s, being a very cerebral type, it's often helpful to get into their body and into their heart because their head can be racing and full of so much information and thinking. But if we can get their brain to sort of slow down and de-stress a little bit by getting into their body, like they could be maybe going for a walk or doing some yoga or stretches or eating a good meal, and also getting into their emotions, which is usually something 5s are like, no, I don't want to do that. But how does your heart feel? Like, what's it like to be stressed out? Like, do you feel a little sad? Do you feel kind of pissed off? Let yourself feel some of that heart energy too, can be balancing to that 5.
Yeah, I can see that. Very good. So we have one more type left.
Type 4.
Type 4, one of your favorites, I want to say.
I don't have favorites.
Of course you don't.
I do. I love 4s. Yes, it's true. So type 4, I love it. I love their authenticity. Type 4s are the romantic or the idealist. And they're just real, like, they're just champions when it comes to authenticity. They want it from everybody else, and they want it for themselves. And type 4s are the type that tend to feel what's missing in life, which I love. I love that they can point that out. Like, the sweeter things in life that just they want a little more of. They're missing something. And there's that kind of sweet melancholy ache in a 4 that wants to connect with what they really think they need and want. Now, the secret is that they already have everything they need here. That's a whole nother story and another topic. But so the thing we're talking about today is what is it that really stresses out type 4? I'd say one big thing is anything that blocks their ability to be authentic. Okay, so when they're put in a situation where they feel like they have to perform or put on a mask and be something they're not, or if they're forced into a really rigid, like cookie cutter structure where there's no room for creativity or them to express themselves, say like they were put into the military and you have to do it this way every single time. Oh, that's boy, hard. Hell no. That'd be awful for a type 4, you know? Same goes for a relationship. If they're in a relationship that's critical or that is not leaving space and room for them to really show their creative and authentic self, or that doesn't encourage their emotional expression, that's really going to be stressful for them because they're already hard on themselves. 4s already have a sense of judging themselves and observing themselves and noticing the things they think aren't right. And then when somebody else or something else externally lays more criticism on them, it's just terrible.
So what do you recommend as if somebody's a 4 and they feel, stressed out, like what should they do?
Well, before I go there, I would say, I guess one thing is to be aware that the stress line for a type 4 is to go to type 2. And that's where they will start to become a bit needy. So if you're a 4 and you all suddenly feel like, oh, I'm getting kind of needy and like clinging to people. Like, are things okay with us? Is everything okay? Like, what can I do for you? That might be a sign that you're not feeling safe. You know, and fours are a heart type dealing with sadness and shame, and they're the ones that really feel it. Like they can deeply connect with that emotion. So you know, having a life where they can process that information and then lift themselves out of it is really important. I'd say, you know, a tip for type fours when they are feeling that pinch of stress is not to get too deep in the story of whatever the negativity may be, but to look for ways to buoy ourselves out of it. You know, whether that's getting moving, getting into the body, getting outside for some sunshine, connecting with other people and talking it through. But again, fours tend to be very self-observing and self-referencing, looking into themselves. And that can sometimes become just this cycle of like not really getting anywhere with it and feeling kind of stuck. So that can also exacerbate the stress, feeling like I can't get out of this stressful cycle. So if that's the case, to break the cycle can often be done by just getting out and with other people, looking out into the world and saying, what can I connect with, instead of being so internally stuck.
Wow, it sounds like every type sort of is experiencing stress somewhat differently.
Yep, but the interesting thing, again, I love to say, is ultimately we have all the types within us. So oftentimes when I'm reading about stress for all the different types, I can relate to some part of all of it. So that means that we can take lessons from all the types, like what you've just heard today, and apply that to yourself if you're noticing some of these patterns.
Absolutely. And then there's so many nuances when it comes to wings and tri-types and subtypes and all of that. We haven't even touched on that yet. So
all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. So much there.
Yeah, and I'm also hoping, you know, in wrapping this up, that by learning a little more about how each type experiences stress, we can then have more compassion for other people in our life. So if we know a type 8 that's getting all pissed off and angry, we might want to step back and just say, is there something that's slowing them down and blocking their energy, or do they feel micromanaged or controlled? If we see a type 5 that seems to be stressed out and really scattered, then maybe we can wonder, are there ways that their space and their boundaries are not being upheld, or they may need some, you know, assistance with just gathering their energy. And type 4, you know, if they're feeling stressed out, or you see that coming across in a type 4, then wondering, like, are they really able to express their authenticity and creativity? Is that being honored? And what are they feeling? Like, ask them. They love to talk about that.
Absolutely. Right? And you always say, by the way, your point, when you look at other people, we don't look at them and think what type they are. We ask them to take the test or the assessment so they can find out themselves, because you may misjudge it. Absolutely. We misjudge each other all the time. Like, what we observe externally may not be what the person feels inside. Right. And even typing ourselves by taking an assessment isn't always accurate. Discovering your true type for some people takes years. It's because it's a very complex system and we're complex individuals. So taking an assessment is just a way to get an idea of what your type might be, but then it's your job to do the self-discovery of coming to workshops, watching these talks, reading books, like engaging in the community to really figure it out. Well, that's why we're doing this fun stuff here. That's why we're here, guys. All right. And I say we're going to wrap up by saying next week, the topic we're going to be discussing will be romantic relationships. Ooh. Ooh. So we already have a 7 and 8 combination here. Yep, romantic relationships. So if that sounds good to you guys, then tune in next week. And of course, if you have any questions about what we discussed today, or questions in general of something you want us to talk about, just drop us a message. We'd be happy to do that. Excellent. Yeah, just we look forward to hearing from you in the comments. And otherwise, happy weekend. Yep. And we will see you next week. Next week. Bye, guys. Bye.